Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on what's new in QuickBooks 2023. This is focusing on QuickBooks Desktop new release. My name is Jennifer. I will be your moderator today. If you have any questions as we go through today's presentation, you can go ahead and use the chat bar and send those over. We will reserve some time at the end of today's session to answer any questions that have come in. I'd like to introduce our presenter today, Vicki Newton. She's an executive director in the Accounting and Project Services Department here at Out of the Box Technology. Vicki has been working with QuickBooks for almost the entirety of her career, and she really is the foremost expert when it comes to QuickBooks. She is very in tune with all the new updates, what's going on. She's in it each and every day with clients across various industries, so she is the perfect representative for today's presentation. A little bit about out-of-the-box technology before we dive in. Maybe you haven't joined us in a while, or you might be a new face to our webinars here. Out-of-the-box technology is anything and everything QuickBooks. We're an elite QuickBooks solution provider, meaning we have a whole host of consultants here who are experts on all versions of QuickBooks, online, desktop, Contractors Edition, really the whole family of QuickBooks products. We provide training, integration, and support across all of those, as well as data services, bookkeeping services, and more. Like I said, we are anything and everything QuickBooks. A few housekeeping items before we jump into today's content. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll have on-demand access to the recording a little bit later today. You'll receive an email with a link to that, as well as it will be posted on our website. As I mentioned, if you have any questions as we go through, you can go ahead and put those in the chat, and we'll be sure to address those at the end or throughout if it's just a quick thing that I can answer for you. But Vicki will be here to answer questions at the end. You may have already done this, but we are having a giveaway at the end of today's presentation. So if you head over to the link on the screen right now, outoftheboxtechnology.com/SPOR, S-P-O-R, and fill out the form there, you will be entered into the Wheel of Names to win a $250 Amazon gift card. If you're wondering what SPOR is, we didn't just pick some random letters there. It's a service provider on record. So again, we are a QuickBooks solution provider, and so we would love to be the solution provider for you and your product. So if you fill that out, we kind of sync up together, and maybe you could win $250. So with that, I am going to hand things over to Vicki. We're going to dive in. Before she goes over the 2023 updates, we're just going to recap quickly the 2022 features. Maybe you're on an older version of QuickBooks and you're not sure what is also encompassed. We did a full webinar on this last fall, so you can kind of take a look at that after this if you didn't get a chance to join us a year ago. But Vicki, can you just kind of pick out maybe your favorite, what you feel clients have really found benefit from that was new in 2022? You don't have to read this whole list in entirety.
Well, thank you for that. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are in the country. First thing I'll let you know, I am not a professional presenter, so if I stumble with my words here and there, please feel free to laugh at me. I appreciate that. So a couple of the things in the 2022 features, one of the things I really like and I encourage people is attaching receipts to documents and uploading keep paper copies. I really love that feature. Sometimes it can be a little more work, but it's nice to have that as backup in your system. The multiple customer emails is great when you want to send it to more than one person. Let's see, what else do we have there? And the instant deposit option, that was something that came out for QuickBooks payments. It does require that you have a QuickBooks account, most of the time bank account with them. So but they added some nice, and the next day direct deposit is a really good feature for a lot of people that are really on tight deadlines. The things, like Jennifer said, they added some things mid-year pretty much on Enterprise Platinum, and all had to do with inventory and the complex functionality that is inventory and keeping your lots straight and doing your adjustments and all so forth. So they continue to try to improve these functions and make them easier all the time with input from users.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Vicki. And one more activity before we dive in and I fully hand the reins over to you. I'm going to launch a poll question for our audience. Now, like I said, QuickBooks 2023 for desktop has been out for about 2 weeks. So some of you may have already been reading about it, or maybe you watched another webinar, maybe you already bought it and now you're like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? And that's why you're here today. So I just want to kind of gauge the familiarity of the audience with QuickBooks 2023. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. Feel free to select the option that best suits you, and hopefully that'll help us kind of guide today's conversation and speak to the audience needs today. So as those come in, we're about 2/3 of the audience has answered. Thank you so much, everyone. And Vicki, as expected, about 86, 85% are not familiar at all, and they want to know all the details. So that is why you're here. Yay. So thank you all. Almost everyone has voted, or not voted, but answered the poll. So thank you so much. I'll go ahead and close that and move right into the content for today, QuickBooks 2023 Desktop, new features and updates. So let's kick it off, Vicki.
Okay, so some great improvements this year. And I'm going to just touch on the areas and then we'll kind of explain each of those a little bit better. But these improvements are for all editions of desktop. One of the greatest things that I love is the improved banking connections, and we'll get into that in a minute. They've got it set up where you can have a note card reader that works within your QuickBooks now. They've got a built-in income employee verification feature through Equifax, the payment links tracking QuickBooks payments. The cash flow hub has been enhanced, and the tracking mileage feature has been enhanced as well. So all of these things are going to be beneficial to most if you utilize them. Keep in mind that most people don't utilize everything that's available to them. And we find that a lot with working with our clients, that they didn't even know that it was available for something that they could do. So that's one of the reasons we do these webinars, so that people can see, oh, I didn't even know we could do that. So it's some of the stuff is very exciting for us. And also know that, you know, here at Out of the Box, we learn stuff new every day, just like you guys, because they're always increasing things, so are making things better. So it's a joy for me because I love to learn new stuff. So the improved banking connectivity, what's awesome for this is they've updated and improved the banking access on a platform that can handle the connectivity and security challenges that we face right now. Everyone knows that there's breaches all the time and this and that, so they've had to continue to enhance that. So because of the increased banking connectivity, online banking will be improved in 3 ways. One, the interruption, downtime, and stability of banking connections will improve, which we love for desktop because we know sometimes it can be a real challenge, I should say. The QuickBooks Desktop can be set up to automatically download the financial data at user-specific times, and it will capture the bank or credit card information. That's definitely new, where you can tell it, hey, upload at this time every day. That's an awesome feature. And then the capability of setting up better banking connectivity with your bank feeds. Currently, there are 4 participating banks with these new increased access features, and they've got like 25 to 30 more coming on in the next few months. So I think for the most part, unless you use a tiny little bank in Podunk, Kansas or somewhere, it probably will be one of the banks that comes on for those improvements. Okay, next slide. So the enhanced payment links. One, you can accept and collect the payments faster. So there's a feature that was launched, building on this feature. This iteration made it easier to solicit payment from a customer without generating an invoice. This allows you to accept and collect payments faster and easier, and you can follow up on any existing payment links by reminding receivers of any unpaid payment links that are still open. What it can't do well, just so you know, is it cannot, payment links are defaulting to be created as sales receipts, and the logic to create them as an invoice payment is not built in yet. So they still have another step to get that all the way, but I think the enhancement will help a lot of people. Just keeping track of how many times I say today. That's important for me to know at the end of it, Jennifer. Okay, so the cash flow hub, there's a lot of improvement here. Analyzing, managing, and tracking your cash flow. I know a lot of people don't use this feature, but it can be really beneficial when you're on a tight crunch with your cash. That allows you to access your accounts, to view your available funds, including your bank accounts, your credit card, your loans through one main gateway. From here, you can manage your money in and your money out transactions. And the trends section of the cash flow hub displays your historical variations graphically. So that helps you in future planning by allowing you to see forthcoming transactions that are going to impact your cash flow. And what this really does well is gives you that visual representation of cash balance over time for a selected group of accounts, and the expected cash flow based on invoices due and bills due. And then a quick link to send reminders to open invoices that haven't been paid by clients. I think a lot of people should be trained on how to use this because they don't, and as long as you keep your books up and correct, it should be very accurate for you to analyze your money. The mileage tracking for vehicles option is, there's already a tool for tracking in QuickBooks, but with the 2023 release, it will allow you to track the mileage in your QuickBooks, track the mileage and in your QuickBooks company file through a brand new iOS app. I know that this app is only available through the Apple App Store right now. That could change in the future, but this feature takes the guesswork out of calculating miles, and it will collect the most recent IRS mileage rate for you. And what it does is it integrates into your QuickBooks so that those things can be tracked, and sometimes to create the reimbursable, a reimbursable check or for the payroll. What it can't do is there's a reimbursable check mark, but right now it's not clear what the point of that is. But there's no way to flow through the miles into a particular employee's paycheck. The expense account can't be used to workflow the amount to a bill. So it has to be used only to report the info, and all actual accounting entries would still need to be made manually. There is, and I know a lot of you are going to be happy to hear this because we hear this all the time, better report optimization process. So they're claiming that it's been addressed with large company files in the 2023 rollout, that the updates will enhance the performance of report compilation for file sizes greater than 300 megabytes. You'll be able to notice that reports will load more quickly than they did in earlier versions. And even though the reporting interface won't change, the optimization will be better for all Desktop Plus, Enterprise, and Accountant users in the US and Canada. Okay, now the next set of features are updates to people who have the Enterprise version only. So this is the quick list, just like we did. We'll dive into each on the next slides. Intercompany transactions, PO approval, workflows, transactions, expiration dates for lot numbers, and item categories. So with intercompany dealings, this is something that I think it's going to be really helpful for people who have several different companies. So in order to accurately record intercompany financial transactions, firms with several connected companies, you have to manually enter identical transactions in the company files. So for example, you enter something that's due from another company in one file, but you still got to go in the other company and set it up due back to that company. So it's resulted in a large number of duplications, mistakes. People don't reconcile it, and then you have a big balance variance between the two. And something I was taught at a very early age is when you have a lot of companies that have these intercompanies, you've got to balance them so that the balances are the same on both sides. So with this release, you will have the capability to link separate QuickBooks company files together. So what this does well is it creates a checker bill with the intercompany flag, and it sends a journal entry to the related company. The journal entry approval gets sent through the cloud, so the company files don't need to be on the same computer server. So it creates that for you. What it can't do well is it can't initiate an intercompany transaction from a transaction other than a bill or a check. So you can't create a journal entry in one company and have it create a journal entry in the other company at the same time. It's only going to do it when you're entering a bill or a check. It cannot add a class or a customer job to the transaction. So that's something would have to be added later if it was required. It does require an approval at the destination company or to post to the source company. The transaction cannot be reconciled prior to approval. It cannot convert a regular bill or check previously entered as normal into an intercompany transaction. And it requires Intuit account connectivity, the same account, to be able to establish the connection. And sub-accounts are not working well. It gives an error in the journal entry. So I think this is going to be something that will continue to be enhanced, but I'm excited to see how this works, because I have a lot of companies that have this problem, and it would solve a lot of issues. The next area is tracking expiration dates. If you want sophisticated inventory controls, the new enterprise date tracking feature is what you've been waiting for. It's part of the Enterprise Platinum and Diamond package. Users will be able to manage inventory more effectively using expiration dates. What it does well is it requires an expiration date in a transaction. The expiration date is an attribute of the lot number and not the transaction. It maintains integrity as a single expiration date per lot number. This is also a potential issue. It does not allow the user to change expiration dates on sales transactions. And the ability to deactivate lot number, what it does well is the ability to deactivate lot number and expiration date tracking for specific items. The inventory item categories, next slide, Jen. This just in, right? Before now, there have only been just a few options available in desktop for users defining inventory objects. With the 2023 release, there's now a more effective way to manage your inventory with user-defined inventory item categories. And you can also establish a hierarchy for your inventory objects. So what that does well is it works in most items, inventory, non-inventory, service, or other charge. It'll show a column in the inventory valuation report with the category, but that's not sortable or filterable. It has 4 layers of categories. It has the potential to fix the item/sub-item structure workaround that is currently used, which is sometimes used to try to organize large item lists. All items are initially in a category called uncategorized and not with an empty blank category, similar to when multiple site locations is enabled. This potentially fixes some of the database integrity issues opposite of how lot numbers were implemented with a blank lot number, which can cause issues. I understand we don't have any Mac users on today, but there are some new features for Mac as well: paying bills online, uploading bills, improved banking connections, improved customer management, and photo sync. And if there was anybody out there for Mac, those things can obviously be looked into if you're interested in that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Vicki. That was a lot of information. There's a lot of really good features that have been added in the 2023 release. And so I'd like to open it up now for questions. Again, Vicki, you went over a lot of things. Some of it, might be really specific to your company, to the way that you utilize QuickBooks. So I'll take all these questions that are coming in, keep typing them in. And if it's something that's really specific to you, that's a great opportunity for us to take a conversation a little bit deeper offline. But I'll start off here. The first question is about the intercompany transactions. And our audience member wants to know, if our enterprise is not on the cloud, will this feature still work?
Good question.
Being that it's a new feature, right? I'm sure that's something that we're still trying to navigate and figure out. So I appreciate your honest answer here, Vicki.
Well, because again, this is stuff that we haven't really even started using yet as well. So it's saying, let's see. Let's see if it's not real clear right here what that is, but that's a really good question, and that's something, Jennifer, we would definitely want to follow up on for that.
Absolutely, and we will do that indeed. And we can send out kind of some follow-up emails and information, and we'll be constantly updating our website as well, outoftheboxtechnology.com. We have a whole section in our blog about the updates that have been released, and so we'll continue to fill that with information. So thank you for that question. Definitely something for us to look into. Vicki, our next question is about inventory. For the inventory item categories, do we think this will be able to improve taxability options by being able to tax based upon category versus just individual part numbers?
Boy, you guys are asking some good questions. I think so. Yes. But again, that's a boy, these great questions that aren't like off the top of my head, that's for sure. I'm not seeing where it says anything.
Yeah, and that might even be something we work with Avalara when it comes to sales tax and all the complexities that go into that, because every state is different depending on where you're selling, where you're buying. There's so many factors. And we do have a webinar coming up in a couple weeks with Avalara, so that's a great question. I can reach out to them as well and see if they have any insight into that, and we can include that in some follow-up and recap notes for this audience. So thank you for that question as well. The next one, Vicki, great question indeed. The next one is actually an excellent question, and a couple people asked it in a similar way about when QuickBooks 2022 will kind of go away, right? So I'll kind of dive into this, and then Vicki, if you have something to add. So traditionally with Intuit and with their kind of cadence with their new product releases is every 3 years they sunset the third year. So we're in 2023, so we just sunsetted 2019 earlier this year, or Intuit did, not we. So that means, what does that mean, sunset? it means that the product is no longer supported with new releases and updates. So you can still use your product if you're in 2016. You're like, I'm in 2016 and it still works. Absolutely. But it won't really support any new, third-party apps, or any of these updates we're talking about won't really be applied. So we do encourage people to be on at least the last 3 years, if not the most current. And then in 2022, there was really a big shift, and QuickBooks Desktop went to a subscription-based model similar to QBO. So what that means is, moving on from 23 and then on forward, is you don't have to buy a whole new set of software, right? You're subscribed to QuickBooks Desktop, whatever version you've selected, and you just have to install the updates, and they'll be applied. So it doesn't do it automatically. You've got to click a couple buttons, but that's how that's going to work going forward. So it will be interesting to see the direction that Intuit takes once that 3-year window that we talk about with the sunset, once all subscriptions are within that and there's no more standalone, how that will look. So stay tuned on that.
I would add to that, Jennifer, just to keep in mind that some people misunderstand that if they if they just have the subscription, that everything will keep working. One of the things that definitely won't is, unless you upgrade your stuff, is payroll. So you have to keep the current versions in order for your payroll to keep working.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that note, because I know that's quite important to most people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, our next question is, my file size is 506 megabytes. Is that too big?
That would be a question for our data team.
Indeed. Indeed.
Those guys know, and they have guidelines that they look at to determine what's too big of a file. Does this need to be condensed? Does this need to be converted to a new file? Do you need a new file to keep everything working well? We have people on the data team that do those consults and would be able to look at your information pretty quickly and tell you whether or not your file's too big.
Yeah, and I think too, they can really guide you to say, it's not too big, but here's where we can, make some modifications, clean things up so that it runs faster, it runs smoother, all of those things. And we call that a health check. And it's really, we just kind of take a look and we say, all right, what is this looking like? What's functioning well? What systems need a little bit of help? And we can kind of give you a whole plan to go through to make sure that you're healthy, your file is healthy. You do the same for your body, so why not for your QuickBooks, for your data file? That really is the lifeblood of your business. So, okay, our next question, Vicki, I don't know if I'm going to stump you. I'm not familiar with this.
Keep stumping me.
What about a positive pay file that can be uploaded to the bank?
I'm not aware that that's something that's available right currently. I know that's something I used to use in my previous life, working on different DMSs, but with QuickBooks, I've never seen it. I've never seen it used.
Okay, great. Didn't stump you. Got to keep going. Keep those questions coming, audience. For intercompany transactions, circling back to this update, is there potential to create automatic intercompany transactions from a customer invoice instead of a vendor bill? So maybe procedurally how you would do that.
The only time that you can do it is with a bill or a check at this time.
Okay.
Whoops. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay, so we have an audience member who is very new to QuickBooks, and they're wondering, when these updates happen, do users have to do a lot of manual work to take advantage of the new features? So great question. Again, kind of like I mentioned, if you're on a version of QuickBooks that is older, in order to take advantage of the new features, you do have to update to the new version. So if you are on earlier than 22, so before the subscription-based model, you would have to purchase the newer subscription, and then you would be able to take benefit from all of those new features. If you're on 2022, so you're part of the subscription model, you'll just have to do those updates, kind of like you do a Windows update. You know, it's just a couple clicks of a button, and then you would be able to take advantage of that.
Now, let me add on that, Jennifer. So I know that, because one of my biggest interests in this was the whole Web Connect online banking. So yeah, you'll have the availability, but some of the things, yes, you will have to go in and adjust some setups. And the banking online is one of those, and they have a whole process that you have to go in and switch it to single user mode. And you have to kind of reconnect things based on the new functionality versus the old. So if you want to use those new functions, sometimes there is going to be things that you have to tweak in your setups.
Exactly. And kind of a follow-up to that, a couple of people are asking if QuickBooks Desktop going forward is only subscription only, and my understanding is that is correct.
Yes.
Okay. In regards to the better report optimization process, do you know, Vicki, I was looking through my notes as well, what the new file capacity size is?
It didn't give us that information.
I didn't see that.
It didn't sound like there was, it's just saying that it enhances things for over 300 megabytes, but it doesn't say that there's anything like there's a limit.
That's the limit, okay. And we can look into that too. Again, we'll be in continual communication as we learn more. Intuit releases more information and all of that. We are happy to share that with you. So just kind of stay tuned on our end, either via email or just keep checking our website and our blog. Do you know, a couple people asked this, how long updates will take? So if they were doing an update from 2022 to 2023, I just say, because in my marketing brain, I'm just like, oh, you just click a couple buttons and it's great. I'm sure it's not that simple. So how long would you say a user should give this update?
Well, generally when you get that update, it will give you clicks to walk through it. And from my experience, it doesn't take long at all. It's just an uploading the new version. So it's generally no more than like 30 minutes to an hour, unless there's any problems that you encounter along the way, but it's usually a pretty seamless, transition.
Okay. That's kind of what I was gauging and just speaking with some clients and whatnot as well. So thank you for confirming that, Vicki. So we have a audience member who's saying they're on 2022, but it continually closes on me for no reason. Did Intuit fix this issue of the program closing with the 2023 update? And that might be part of one of those features where it kind of just runs a little bit better, a little bit more seamless. But I'm sure there always will be an outlying factor that, programs crash, programs close, but I think that will be lessened with this. Would you agree with that, Vicki?
I would agree with that to a point. I think that I see that happen more with people who are on a hosted server versus just having it on their own computer. So those people that, use Right Networks, use Recur 360, use whoever, I think they see that more often. Whether this will help that, let's cross our fingers, hope it does. But it's something that when people ask me, how come it does that? I really have no answer, because they can't tell us. So it's just one of those glitches, but I do think it happens more with people that are on hosted servers.
Okay. And it could be too, as Intuit continues to add features, you're kind of building upon, or they're kind of building upon this product. So like with a new car, they tell you, oh, this is the first year that we're using this engine. You might want to be careful. Same thing with this new way that they're presenting QuickBooks to all of these users, and more people are switching to QuickBooks. every single day. And so it's one of those things. But of course, we can't guarantee that if you go to 2023, it'll never crash on you again.
Yeah, no, we can never guarantee that because it's the software. So,
Exactly. All right, well, we have time for a couple more questions. And as we go through that, I just wanted to remind everyone about our drawing we'll have in a few minutes here for the $250 Amazon gift card. If you didn't make your way over to outoftheboxtechnology.com/SPOR, that's S as in Sam, POR, you can fill that out and we'll run that drawing in just a few minutes. But our next question, Vicki, is our audience member says, my merchant service automatic deposits, ACH and credit card, do not get entered correctly. I have to go through and delete them and then regroup the deposits to get them to match the bank statement. Any ideas on how to resolve this?
well, first of all, there's a couple ways. It could be just how it's all being processed. It really would take looking at your current system and looking at what's happening, because generally when you're doing merchant services, it does it automatically through your undeposited funds and then groups those together to match what comes to the bank. So if you're using Intuit Merchant Services, then I'd want to see exactly how it's set up and how it is working. Have you show me, like, this is what it's doing, how can we fix this? I can't tell you off the top of my head because a lot of times I just need to look at it and see what's happening. But generally, it should work just like that. It should be pretty seamless if you're using the Intuit Merchant Services, as long as the setups are right.
Perfect. Let's see. This one, I'm not sure, again, if you will know this yet, if we've been given that much information, but do you know how detailed that expiration update is going to be?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I think that's one that they're like almost teasing us with what it is, and you've really got to kind of get into it and see, because the expiration could be out.
We go through the same learning curve as y'all, so we have to look into these things too, and sometimes test them out to see what it will and won't do on our own, because they could say one thing, but I like to see it for myself before I make determinations.
Absolutely. And I'm going to just type this. I know a couple of people are asking me to repeat how to enter in the drawing. So I'm going to put that in the chat for y'all right now. So I've got another question about QuickBooks Enterprise. Our audience member is getting frustrated at times on how it uses the Send Forms app. Vicki, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but why do we have to be in single user mode to create templates? Do you know if Intuit and QuickBooks plan on allowing us to add templates without having to be in single user mode?
Are you talking about a forms template? Or
I think it looks like it.
Well, there's certain things within Desktop that you have to be in single user mode to change, and that happens to be one of them. And it's unfortunate, but a lot of times, and I have to deal with it with clients myself, it's like, okay, when can I get in this where it can just be me? Because you can't do certain changes to payroll items or even chart of account things unless you're in single user mode. So it's not something that I would say is going to change. If you're having problems with sending forms, that's kind of a different thing, but we can always take a look at it and see what it is you're trying to do, and maybe what you're trying to do is not really what you need to do. It's, again, one of those things that you want to see exactly what you're doing to make a final call on.
Absolutely. All right, we'll take one more question here, and it kind of encompasses probably a lot of questions and a lot of partial answers we've been able to give, but do you recommend waiting X amount of time before upgrading to the new software? I know, like I said, some of this is like, we're not sure yet. We gotta, test it out. It's only been out for less than a month. So what would you tell a client if they wanted to know. Should I wait?
Well,
Should I
I'm
jump on
gonna
it now?
tell the clients what I've been told, and over the years that I've been here, is that especially when it first comes out, we always say if you're on a more updated version and you don't have to switch right now, give it a few months, let them work out any kinks, because that's what they're going to do. So if you're on a 2021 version, there's no real need, unless you just really need these new improvements, to update right now. Give it a couple months, maybe after the first of the year, then upgrade it. It really depends on what your desire is. But like I say, we generally, I was always told when I first started, it's like, we like to tell people, give it a little bit to work out kinks, but that doesn't stop you from going ahead and getting it. Any updates they make to what is currently being offered would be downloaded with your new subscription
Right.
when they create them.
Right. And that is true, right? As they do bug fixes
Yeah.
and other updates, like it'll all be incorporated. You don't have to buy again or re-download anything. It's just like a Windows update. Like you just do that. And
The things that QuickBooks, just so our audience knows, that QuickBooks does take input from clients, end users, because they want to make it where it works for everybody and that it has the functions that you need. So a lot of times, we actually, even several years ago, had a functionality on one of the softwares that one of our internal people recommended. Hey, we have a lot of people asking for this, and Intuit took it and they ended up implementing it. So it's what they hear from clients generally that's getting them to make these upgrades. So it's always helpful if you have input, and I think there's even a way to directly send that to Intuit as far as things you would like to see. And they take all those things into consideration.
which is really nice because, y'all are the end users. So if you are hoping for it to do certain things, they're in the business of customer service a little bit too, right? And want to give the people what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, Vicki, did you have any other kind of like closing words of wisdom or anything else you wanted to share before we do our winners? I'm entering everyone's name right now into our wheel of names so we can do a winner. So I'm stalling slightly and having you fill that silence as I put everyone's name in.
Okay. Well, Lord knows I can talk. We all know I can do that. So I would say that I think that a lot of people get scared of new technology, me being one of them. I've been in the accounting life since I was 16 years old and went to college for it. And everything I learned at that point was all on paper. So it's been scary for me as I gotten older to continue to have more enhancements. I'm like, oh man, this is something else I got to learn. But it can be taught. And one of the things we do here out of the box is we do train. So, not only do we have a data team that helps with all the integrity of the files and the migration stuff. My job as a project and consulting person is I am an accounting person and working with the accounting functions of the software itself. So what I do is a lot of consulting, a lot of training on helping people learn how to use the QuickBooks subscription or whatever version you're on to the best that you can use it. Again, I was on a software for years when I was in a different business that I knew it front and back, but it was always coming out something new. But they would still say, most people use maybe 60% of the functions that are available to you. So it doesn't hurt for if anyone's really interested in knowing a lot and a deep dive, we can do training, or there's actually classes out there you can take and learning all the details of QuickBooks versus desktop and QBO and online. So don't be afraid to dig in. And if you don't care and you don't want to know anything about it, we have a recurring team that will help you do your books every month if you want. So we're an all service company, like Jennifer says, anything and everything QuickBooks, that's us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And even, obtaining the right QuickBooks product. So maybe you're using it. Are you in the right software? Like, are you using something that maybe was great for your business 3 years ago when you got it, but I'm sure your business has grown, evolved. Things are different in 2022, almost 23, than they were in 2019. As we all know, the past few years have been unique. So we can look at that with you as well and say, wow, maybe you just picked one out of a hat when you were on the website, but you really should be in here, or your business has changed and so you should really be in there. We would love to have that conversation with you and pass on our discounts that we get as a elite solution provider. Our discounts are for life, for the life of the product. They won't expire in 3 months or 6 months, and we'd love to pass that on to you as well. So with that, in the spirit of generosity and giving to you all, I am going to share our wheel of names. Thank you to everyone who submitted the form. I'm going to go ahead and click to spin and see
Be
who
one of my clients. Be one of my clients. I'm just kidding.
who's our lucky winner of the $250 Amazon gift card. It looks like Tracy M is our winner. So Tracy, I will be in touch with you right after we sign off to get that gift card over to you. It'll be a digital Amazon gift card, so we'll chat with the best way to send that over to you. So, oh, and there we go. The winner is Tracy. Congratulations. So that kind of wraps us up for today. I know there were a couple questions we didn't get to that were just a little more kind of in-depth and specific, or maybe we need to research a little more on those certain topics. So we will be following up with everyone today as we learn more. Some of those, like I said, questions that we needed to dig deeper, whether it was talking to a tax expert or our data team to let you know some of those answers. But I did want to invite everyone today to our full schedule of Technology Tuesday for the month of November. We are really hitting it hard as we get ready for year end and moving into 2023. So almost every week except Thanksgiving week, we will be doing a Tech Tuesday. Again, those are broadcast at noon Eastern time on Tuesdays. They're about an hour. Just really good content. Like I said, our theme is getting ready for year end. So we're going to kick off November preparing for 1099s, what that looks like, and how out of the box technology can help with that process. You may have a lot of 1099s to do and not a lot of time. So we want to help take care of that for you. The next week we'll be talking data migrations. What is a data migration? Why would you need one? How do you know? And when is the right time? Then we are having Avalera join us on November 15th to talk about making 2023 your best tax year yet. And then on November 29th, a topic that Vicki is very familiar with, and she's handing the torch off to another consultant to talk about the year-end checklist that you need. What do you got to do to just get everything all lined up and tidy before January 1 hits off? So these are all completely free webinars. They also are recorded just as this one is, and we share the links to attendees. We also put the content on our website. So if November is busy for you, these times don't work for you, check out our website. You can watch those on demand at your leisure. So again, thank you all so much for joining us today. Here's our contact information. If you want to reach out with more specific questions, you want to schedule some time to talk to one of us, we would love to hear from you and keep in touch. Vicki, thank you so much. I know you are a super busy lady with all of your clients researching this new release. So thank you for your time today. And we wish everyone a wonderful rest of your week and weekend.